Big news, everybody. I knew this was coming. I didn't know when it was going to be announced. As you can see here, a post by the Esports World Cup, right below here. IOC Media, historic moment for esports. The first ever Olympic esports games will be held in Riyadh in 2027. The road to the Olympic esports games kicks off this year. Let me actually open up the full post. More details in this news article. And this is in partnership with the Esports World Cup. It says, we are incredibly proud to be a founding partner of the Olympic Esports Games, a groundbreaking event set to debut in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2027. This historic first edition marks a new era in competitive gaming, and we are excited to be at the forefront. So this is big. Ever since I started working in esports, I mean, I've been a player since I was in middle school, right? But ever since I started, I guess, like, getting paid to be a caster, it wasn't that much money, but maybe around 1920, all the time there were conversations about, would esports ever be in the Olympics? Is that possible if it got in there? What does that mean? And, I kind of thought eventually it would happen, but I didn't, even though it's been forever. I'm kind of surprised that it's actually finally here. So I actually did some work in IEM Pyeongchang during the Winter Olympics for Starcraft 2, where Scarlet ended up winning. It was a moment where, in collaboration with ESL, we basically made this big pitch to the IOC to try to expose them to esports. And at the time, everybody kind of agreed StarCraft is probably the best game, StarCraft 2 specifically, probably the best game to show to them as a competitive game. One of the biggest issues, and I think people kind of forget about this, but the majority of competitive esports are shooters. And there's obviously a little bit of discomfort in the level of violence that you see in a shooter, and how that immediately can turn off people that work in the Olympics to the idea of even having competitive games. StarCraft, a little bit more in line with something like chess. Obviously, there's violence on the screen here now, but not, I guess, the same kind of carnage you would see in a shooting game. Just recently, last time I was in Riyadh, in one of the conversations I had, I thought this was really interesting. There's almost like 3 levels of games that the Olympics kind of sees each game in. The easiest one to get into the Olympics would probably be a game based off a traditional sport. So, like the game, I think it was formerly known as FIFA, the game that had to change the name to like F2 or something like that. But games like that are basically based in reality of sports that already exist. That's a pretty easy in for them. Then the tier 2 games would be something like, let's say, StarCraft, right? It's not based in reality, but you can kind of appreciate the strategy. Maybe fighting games would go in this as well. And then the third would be things like shooters, so Counter-Strike, stuff like that. Maybe a little bit less appetizing. The IOC more likely to see the violence in that first and maybe the strategy later. But this is pretty big. We did this event in, like I said, 2018. And then shortly after, Blizzard kind of fell apart, so we weren't able to push the Olympics anymore. Street Fighter did make some kind of a debut. I don't know the specifics of it. That was at the Tokyo Olympics, but that was pretty big. And so now we have this collaboration going on with the Esports World Cup, helping to facilitate the 2027 Olympics in Riyadh. So if you have not been to Riyadh or seen the Esports World Cup, I should probably first explain, there are so many esports stadiums they built that it blows my mind. I have had the opportunity to basically see all the big esports stages, or all the different types of esports stages. I've had stages at Morph, like we had at BlizzCon, where the whole stage turns into the map. I've had ones where, we cast with the players in a kind of central circular arena. I've worked on stages where the entire thing is massive and it's all a green screen, so You can put the players like literally in the map or on the stage. You can use augmented reality. The Saudis have built a ton of major, all very different esports arenas. So it would make sense that they would try to facilitate that there first to get this going. One thing to keep in mind, it's really expensive to build these stages. It's almost like you're making a concert with all the effects and everything else that's there, plus all the networking required to get the broadcast set up, to get the PCs there, and obviously to get the audience in. So this is really big. Now, I think if you're watching this video, you're probably asking yourself, will StarCraft be there? And the answer is, I don't know. But I would assume that you would have the oldest games that started esports be there, right? I mean, here we see the discus. This is an incredibly... this is all the way back into like the very origins of the Olympics, is guys hurling a giant discus as far as they can. And obviously we've got more modern games in the Olympics, but I hope that they actually do go to their roots and put that in there. I think the big question is going to be, will Blizzard support this? And if so, how much support is actually required? We still don't know if StarCraft's going to be in the Esports World Cup. StarCraft 2 specifically. I'd be surprised if StarCraft 1 was there. It wasn't there last year. But, you know, one of the issues I would imagine is coming into conflict with the Esports World Cup and Blizzard is who's going to fund this, who's going to pay for it. Keep in mind the Saudis are putting up millions of dollars in prize pools for the games that they have. And I think there's something like 25 games that are going to be announced. They're not done yet. We still don't, again, we'll see if StarCraft 2 is in there or not. If you're watching this on YouTube, there might be a video later on where we find out for sure or not. I'll definitely be putting some news up on my YouTube page when we finally find out. But, you know, I don't know how much it costs to have StarCraft as an Olympic sport, assuming that you don't have a massive prize pool. I mean, basically, the early tournaments that I was going to back in the day, that was WCG, which is trying to basically emulate the Olympics. I put up ski shooting here as well. You got to remember, there's so many different games in the Olympics. I would assume they'd have to go through not just modern games that are popular now, but games that are also old. I think if they're going to do this justice. By the way, the only thing I can think of that's about as old as, like, let's say StarCraft 1 that maybe should be considered would be, like, rail shooters. Like Quake or... what is it? Maybe Unreal. I don't know what everybody plays now, but, you know, a lot of those 1v1 games. That genre, by the way, is still a lot smaller than StarCraft, but I do hope that they will actually go back and put that in there. And if they do, I think that would be huge. By the way, the Olympics has really been struggling with viewership, with relevance. I don't mean that as a knock on them. I think it'd be cool to have StarCraft at the Olympics, but one of the reasons why this is even happening is that there's a whole young generation that's just not as enthralled in the Olympics. And some of conventional sports that we all grew up with have been taking a hit. One thing that has not changed is that every young generation plays games and has some degree of respect and admiration for games. Granted, all these different regions, they tend to prefer different games. If you were growing up as a gamer 10 years ago in North America, you knew all about Fortnite. But if you were in Asia, you might not know that game exists. So if they're going to do this right, they're going to have, I think, a wide range of titles. And one of the reasons why I'm making this video is I think if there was ever a time for fans of StarCraft to put pressure on Blizzard, it would be for this. Again, I don't know the future with StarCraft 2 at the Esports World Cup. I hope that we have at least one more year. But, you know, the Olympics, it's supposed to be something that kind of is cherishing the oldest sports. And I feel like you just can't have an Olympics without StarCraft. So I do hope they have that there. I also feel like they should have other RTS games as well. I'm talking about Warcraft 3, maybe Age of Empires 2. And yeah, maybe they can try to figure out a way to do this affordably and smartly. I think that for the people that are fans of StarCraft 2, by the way, I think people need to be ready by maybe 2026, 2027. It's going to have to be more grassroots. I don't think we're going to have the same kind of support. And that's not necessarily bad, by the way. StarCraft 1 in Korea has done very well with grassroots stuff. But yeah, get out there. Let Blizzard know as these announcements get closer and closer to, I don't know, them picking the games and them doing this. I hope they consider StarCraft. I think they should. I think you can't have, all these new games without also appreciating the old. And, esports, it's been an evolving thing, but I do hope we kind of keep the history alive, and it's not always just about what's new, but we kind of do it together in tandem. Anyways, let me know what you think about this. Do you think this is a good thing for esports or StarCraft in general to be in this, or should it go its separate way? Let me know in the comments. Check out tastelessthreads.com. You can find my merch site there. I've got this APM shirt on, a bunch of other cool shit that you can find. You can always join me on my Twitch stream where I record these videos live. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.